All right. So how do you speak with motivated sellers? How do you find them? How do you speak with them, right? Right. If let's say I'm going to speak with one person so you can answer some questions. Guys, I'm going to speak with you, okay? If let's say you are in arrears, let's say you lose your job, you are in arrears, and you want to sell your property. Who's the first person you will ring? Basil, can you hear me?
Estate agent, maybe? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I think Basil, sorry.
Yeah, would be the first person you would ring, Basil?
Ring the bank.
No, let's say you're in arrears, and now you want to sell your property because you just can't pay the mortgage. And who would be the first person you'd ring? Basil, can you hear me? I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I can hear you, Jack. Yeah.
Yeah, so who would be the first person you would ring?
Maybe I didn't understand the question. So is it when somebody's in arrears, like when...
Can I answer that?
Okay, so let me just do this with Rajiv. Rajiv?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's say you've lost your job, you're in arrears. Who would be the first person you'd ring if you want to sell your property?
I'll go to my network first.
Yeah, okay, so...
Within my network, to
within your network?
Yeah,
okay.
Who's in the property. Like, I'll probably approach this group first and say, Jack, look, this has happened. Can you sell the property for me?
You're talking with a bias, Rajiv.
If you're someone that is
if you are a normal person, you know nothing about the property world, you don't have a network, none of that, remove the glosses that you have at the moment.
Right, okay.
Okay, you are in a corporate job, or you're in some sort of mid-management level job or whatever, even if, let's say you're even a plumber, right?
Yeah.
You've lost your job, who's the first person you would call when you want to sell your property?
The estate agent.
Okay, good. Who would be the second person you would ring?
Maybe the people whom you know, the contacts
okay.
who are in that industry.
Let's say if you're self-employed, who would be the second person you'd ring?
Maybe a family member.
I'll repeat the question. If you are self-employed and now for some reason you can't work, you're in arrears, you call the estate agent, who would be the second person you'd ring?
The bank?
No.
Oh.
You are already in arrears. You're not calling the bank. You're self-employed. You're going to call your accountant, guys.
Oh, I wouldn't even think about that.
Okay, you're going to call your accountant. So,
why?
Because you want to sell your property, you are in arrears, and the guys who can help you sell this property faster is your accountants. Grace, are you with me?
That really? Wow.
Faisal, are you with me on this?
Yeah, I didn't think of actually.
Me neither.
You will call when someone is in trouble. They call their family, obviously. They call their bank trying to sort things out, obviously. But then after that, they start calling the estate agents, the accountants, and the solicitors, guys. Okay? Depending on what they do, where are they based, how much wealth they have, these are the three people they will ring: the estate agent, the accountant, and the solicitor. That's where your deals are, guys. With your local accountants, with your solicitors, even when they go into probate, where do the deals end up? With your solicitors, guys, with your local solicitors. Raise your hand if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. These are the people you want to call and start networking with.
I see the big one in the corner. That's it.
Okay. Hi, Nav.
Hi, guys.
So that's where your deals are, guys. Your deals are with your local estate agent. Your deals are with your accountants, local accountants, and your deals are with your local solicitors. Okay. going back to how would you approach these guys? Okay, when you walk in and let's say someone is in arrears, obviously starting with, how are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and so on and so forth. You build a little bit of rapport. You've checked about the person. You take like 2 or 3 minutes to get to know that person on a personal level. After that, your next question is, so tell me about the probate or the arrears that you might have with your lender. Tell me a little bit more about that. The person says, well, I lost my job, or I can't work for whatever the reason might be, and my arrears stand at X amount of money. Okay? Depending on whatever that situation might be, you plan your questions accordingly based on the GROW model. Okay? Guys, it's an interactive session. You can ask me questions in the middle. Okay? So based on the GROW model, you'll ask questions based on that. So let's say this person says, I am in arrears of £17,000. Same with this woman that I shared earlier about. And I still have a refurb on the property to be done before I can sell this property. I need about £30,000-40,000. And or the best scenario for me might be if I sell the property because I just can't afford the mortgage. You need to ask those questions so you can understand what does that person want in the first place. Okay, so the reality might be probate, arrears, health issues, divorce issues, whatever that might be. And then you ask, what is it that you want to achieve from this property? And then you plan accordingly. Okay, if someone is in if let's say a property is probate property, right? You normally would get them somewhere in the region of 20 to 30% discounted. Okay, they're normally run down properties because someone was elderly, they passed away. Normally, if it is a property that someone has lost their job, again, it could be in a bad condition because the person hasn't earned anything the last 6, 12 months or maybe longer, and just doesn't have the means to be able to repair the property. Because they're desperate, you're likely going to get a discount anywhere between 10% onwards. It can be as much as, and I've seen it personally, up to even 50%. Okay, I remember a property came to me, some Russian billionaire. He had bought this property for his daughter. He had paid 11 million for it. The daughter, day one, when she was told, you've got a property, she said, I don't want to live in it. The guy came back in the market, wants to sell. It's an 11 million pound worth of property. He's not going to sell it easily. He just turned up to the estate agent and said, get me wherever you can. The property came to me at 5 million, guys. Okay, now imagine 11 million and 5 million, more than 50% discount. Okay, even though then eventually he pulled out from the market, I never managed to buy it. Okay, but it's again using the GROW model the right way to understand their situation, what situation they might be in. They might have savings, but they might be thinking, okay, 6 months down the line, my savings are going to finish and I just won't be able to pay the mortgage. That might be their situation. Or their situation might be, well, they're already in trouble as in arrears. The bank is threatening them with receivership. There could be a whole bunch of situations that they might be in. And your job now is to bring that solution. Does that make sense? Raise your hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, let me share something in the middle so you can see through. Do not lose any opportunity just because as a franchise, we do not cover certain strategies. It's your job to learn those strategies that we don't even cover within the franchise and to take those opportunities and convert, well, to take those difficult situations and turn them into opportunities. Does that make sense? Okay. So imagine, a motivated seller comes, the last 2 deals that I have done, they've both been below market value deals, both. Okay. And I have made substantial equity based on that by refinancing and trying to pull out all the money. Does that make sense? Okay. So do not lose these opportunities. In fact, one of the things that I always say within all of this is when you come across commercial, like retail premises, that are not doing well. And as long as you can bring a listed tenant in there, you can double the value in some cases. Do not lose these opportunities, guys. They are amazing opportunities. You don't necessarily need to do a lot of work. All you need to do is find a good tenant, put it in there. All of a sudden, you've increased the value from anywhere from 20%. Sometimes, in some cases, I've seen 2% rise in the value. Imagine you buy a retail shop worth 300 grand and you can push the value up to $1 million. I have physically seen that, guys. Okay? All they did was brought in a new tenant. They actually did a little bit of work as well. So they actually did a refurb on the property as well. Brought in the tenant, 200% rise in the value. Okay? So do not lose these opportunities. They're all opportunities. Okay? At the same time, it's all about just going in, understanding the situation they might be in as in their reality of the growth. Where do they want to be as in the goals wise? And then you bringing your solution as in your opportunity into the picture. That means you're going to either, buy the property for cash. Remember, when they are in trouble, they want cash. And the way to get cash is you bridge it. Okay, so imagine you find something that's 30% discounted. You can just get a bridge loan. To give you an example, when you find, I'm not using if, it's all about when you find a 30% discounted property, imagine the property is £1 million. Okay, you get a 30% discount. That's now 700 grand. You only need £70,000 deposit to buy this property. I can get you the 630 in a loan. Does that make sense? Obviously, you need 70 grand plus the stamp duty, okay? Which I would guess is about £50,000. So you need about £120,000 to buy a property that's worth $1 million. And then you're getting 300 grand discount. Does that make sense? Okay? And then you buy that property, refinance it, pull out all of your money plus a lot more. And then you can just rent it out or whatever you want to do, depending on you want to keep it or you want to sell it. Okay? Okay? But again, here is one thing I learned, guys. The worse the condition of the property, the more value you can add. The worse the condition of the human being you're speaking with, the more value you can bring. Does that make sense? Okay, it applies on both levels. Okay, so when you speak with a human being and this guy is in trouble, whatever the trouble might look like, either money or divorce or health or whatever that might be, you've got value that you can bring. That person could be just psychologically messed up. You can bring value into the picture, right? The more mess you see and the more clarity you have, the more value you'll be able to bring on the table. Does that make sense? Okay, so when I see rubbish, okay, I am all happy because I can bring value. That rubbish could be in the form of rubbish at the property or rubbish in the mind of the person I'm speaking with. Does that make sense? Okay, so for me, that's all opportunity.
Jack, just quick question. You said, just a quick question, sorry, about the bridge. You said, that you can get up to 90% bridge. Is that what you're trying to say? Because if you have about 100,000 to buy a £1 million property,
90% of the purchase price.
Wow. Okay.
Now you can get a so you can buy a property. If let's say it's 30% discounted, I can get you a bridge up to 90% of the purchase price.
If it's 30% discounted. Wow. Okay.
If it is 30% discounted, so in that case, you only need 10% of the purchase price plus the stamp duty.
And then you have to obviously do up the property and then refinance it after to get on a bricks and mortar.
Yes.
Right?
So for the refurb part, I can still get you extra money.
Okay. Well, via development finance or something.
So there are different products, right? So there's something called the bridge loan, and there's something called the bridge that gets automatically converted to buy to let, and then there's another one that is a bridge loan, and at the back it's more like a refurb loan. And then there's something called a whole development loan. So there's all sorts of different products depending on the kind of property it is. there will be a certain kind of loan that will apply to the property. Okay. So it all depends. So there has been times when we've done where it's an initial bridge loan and it automatically converts to a buy-to-let. I've also done a bridge loan with what you call the backup refurb loan. And then there's another one which is called the whole development loan. So basically it's purchase plus the build or the conversion or the refurb, and it just eventually becomes all development loan. All, in essence, they're very similar in nature. Okay. But they're just some of them structured differently and they have different names. But in essence, they're all the same.
You just have to pay them back with the work you do on the property, the add value you added.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Jack, you mentioned the 90% loan basically.
Yeah.
So do they always go on market? How do they value it, Jack? Because I thought it's always on a purchase price.
They will do a market valuation, Basil. Remember one more thing about market valuations, guys. Depending on the lender, okay? If it's a high street lender, expect lower valuation. If it is a tier 2 lender, what they call the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 is what you call the high street lenders, Barclays, Halifax, NetWest, and so on and so forth. Then you have the tier 2 lenders, okay? The mortgage works, a whole shebang of them, right? And then there's the tier 3 lenders. Tier 1 cheaper, tier 2 slightly more expensive, tier 3 really expensive. So the point I was trying to make was that every product is structured differently depending on the tier of the lender, and the valuations, if it's a tier 1 lender, they're slightly valued lower than what you call the market value. Tier 2 lenders, a little more than what the high street lenders would value, and tier 3 lenders, you might get a full valuation. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Again, this is heavily individually dependent on the valuation company. Remember, they have all valuations companies have no connection with the lender. They're all external third parties. Does that make sense? Okay. So valuation can be more like, in most cases, there's lots of things that you can do to make sure that it stacks, but a lot of it depends on the valuation guy that walks in. Okay. So it can be a lottery, and you can be the most unluckiest and get a really bad valuation, and there's nothing you can do about it. Okay.
There's never no way of knowing a good valuator, is it? That you can
you can't.
You can never get in there.
And the only thing you can do about it is present your property in the best possible light, if you know what I mean. Right? That's the best you can do. When they come around, make sure you're on site, make sure you're showing the best parts of the property, make sure you're showing them the light, the purpose, the story behind it. It just increases your possibility of getting a better valuation. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah. Just one more question. Sometimes we can hire our own commercial valuation valuer or somebody whom we can pay.
Even that is beyond your control.
I mean, sometimes the lender would allow because they are in their panel or something.
They do,
so
yes. They do.
okay, so
They
in
do,
that
but
case,
it's still beyond your control. It's still beyond your control, Basil. Because remember, these valuation companies are registered and compliant. So it's not like you can, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like you can do anything to change their perception of what they're going to value this as, except that you present it in the best possible light.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So like I said, going back to the core of this session, so interconnected parts, yes. But really, I'll repeat this, okay? The grow model can be very, very simple if you really look at the core of it, right? You're going in where something or someone needs attention and value, and you're bringing that value onto the table, okay? So you understand their reality, what difficulty that they might be in, why are they not able to do it themselves? They might not have the knowledge, they might not have the courage, they might not have the money, they might not have the time. The number of times someone has been proposed a job somewhere outside of UK, they're getting double the salary, they now don't care about the property that they're living in, they leave it behind to the estate agent, they're happy to give you a discount of 10%. Raise your hand. One of the properties I bought was this one. Okay, it was a lawyer, You know, she moved to Canada, she had a better job, she left the property to the estate agent. I ended up getting a £45,000 discount. Okay, because she just didn't care. Someone else bought the agreed on the property, never completed. You know, I think it was like 4 or 5 months later, they pulled out. I go back in, I get a £45,000 discount. Okay, so you need to be aware of where they are coming from with the questioning. You can actually do this questioning even if you don't see the landlord. You can do it with the estate agent. In most cases, they will answer your questions. Does that make sense? Okay, like in this instance, I had asked the estate agent, you know, so why are they selling? Oh, the person has moved abroad, they had a good job offer, and so they just had to leave immediately. Okay, fine. Then when I walked in, put an offer, it was rejected, someone else took it. I went back in 4 or 5 months later, and then I asked, you know, what happened? Why did they pull out? Oh, they couldn't get the mortgage. Okay, I said, okay, what if I put this offer? Do you think it'll get accepted? Oh, from what I see, they're now getting a bit, you know, desperate to sell. They've been waiting for 5 months. That's what she said. Okay, and it was no other than chancellors. Chancellors, you know, they're everywhere, right? Okay, so she turned up and I said, okay, well, I'm going to give you this offer. Go back and let me know. She came back, she said, it's rejected. I said, add another 5 grand to it. And then she came back and said, they've said yes. Done. Okay. So understanding this about where they are on the journey and then bringing your opportunity into the picture is what the key is. It's not rocket science. Okay. The same goes for either below market value deals or trouble deals or probate properties. Same goes with your sheet. You go in, the guy doesn't have knowledge. You have the knowledge. You can bring the money into the picture. Does that make sense? These are the values you can bring, as in opportunities you can bring on the table to be able to add value. Okay? Remember, vendor finance, which is option agreement, in other words, when they sign up an option agreement with you, because your property is vendor finance backed, you can easily get 100% loans to do refurbs. So if you come across a property that doesn't have the potential for planning gain, but has the potential to extend at the back, extend on the side, go into the loft, you can almost make the property double the size of the existing size. You sign an option agreement, let's say it's worth about $1 million. You go to the top into the loft, you go to the back, maybe 6 meters, 12 meters. You can create a conservatory at the back. You can do a side extension. You can almost double the size of the property. It goes from 1 million to 2 million. You need 300 grand to do the refurb. You can add value worth 700 grand. You talk to the guy and say, I'm going to pay you 1.2 million. You keep half of the million. Does that make sense? And I can get you all the 300 grand that you need for the refurb. Raise your hand. Raise your hand, guys, because it is vendor-backed finance, guys. Okay, and within the option agreement, because it gets registered on the title, a part of that agreement says that when you take a loan, which you don't take a loan, the landlord takes the loan. He signs the agreement with you while you take up you are responsible for the work within the agreement. Does that make sense? Okay, so understanding opportunities where none might exist. Okay, so you might come across a property, you're not going to get multiple units. You're not going to get a planning uplift. Okay, but you can walk in and see, well, this guy, I mean, the next door has extended 6 meters at the back. You know, Nav is here, he knows what I'm talking about. Right? You get
Yes.
3 meters in most cases, which is under PD, which is permitted development. And then you can get 6 meters through an application. In most cases, depending on the size of the property and the build. You extend 6 meters at the back of the property. You might get a side extension. You go into the loft, right? All of a sudden, you've added 50, 70, 80%, sometimes in some cases, even made the property double the size. Okay? And all of a sudden, it goes from £1 million to £2 million. Okay, it's not very difficult. In fact, one of the projects of one of my very close friends did was this. He bought this property. I think he paid 550 odd for it. He spent 300 grand extending at the back, extending the side, going into the loft. It was a back to brick refurb. Property is probably worth about 1.2, 1.3 now. Okay, he paid 550 plus the 300, 850 is probably worth about 1.3 now. Okay, so adding value worth 450 grand. Raise your hand, see where I'm going with this. Now, just because we don't cover certain opportunities within our franchise does not restrict you from doing your bit. Okay, you can do all of these deals. We will even help you if we can and have the cash available or investor lined up. We will even help you. Okay.
But I was about to ask that question. Yes, you have answered it, Kishi.
Oh, I've just answered it. Okay. All right. Okay. So I always say, look, understanding where the opportunities are and understanding what value you can bring on the table, that's what the grow model is. Your approach will be exactly the same, which is you booking in, understanding what the opportunity is from the property perspective as well as the human being perspective, and then going in and saying, this is what we can do for you. What is it that you want to achieve? And then creating a win-win situation. I always do this, right? Remember, this hand hasn't moved. You just find a way to match the opportunity. Okay?
So the G is the goals, right? This is when you unpack what they want from
what
the situation.
What is it that they want? Yeah. Never ever propose, write this down, guys. Never ever propose your opportunity unless it matches their exact expectations and goals, because you'll be wasting your time.
So got you. So it's the want.
Never ever propose your solution as in opportunities from the grow model unless you have full clarity on their goals, their expectations, and you match 100% of their expectations. Unless it's 100% match, you will waste a lot of time, guys.
Jack, and obviously, so the grow is the G is the goals, the wants. Then the reality, what is the actual picture of the actual what's in front of you? Then the opportunity is what you're talking about. What value you can add, property side, human side. What's the W? How do you end with the W?
Oh, the W is the closing question. Would you like to go ahead?
Okay. W, would you like to go ahead? Yeah, okay.
The number of people I know who would not ask the closing question is about sitting at 80%.
Fear.
Always ask the sale. Always ask for the sale. Always say, would you like to go ahead? How would you like to see this agreement? That's a closing question, guys. Okay? How would you like to proceed? Would you like me to instruct our solicitor? Would you like me to look after your legal fees? That's a closing question, guys. I will look after your legal fees. That's a closing question. Okay? Ask the closing question. Ask for the sale.
Oh.
Okay? I'm going to go through every person. Now, any questions?
Yes, I'm going to ask you a very stupid question. Sorry.
There's no stupid question.
Yeah. Can you go through the growth model again? GROWT.
So G stands for goals, R for reality, O for opportunities, and W for will. Your questions need to be based on the grow model. Okay.
Okay.
Any more questions now?
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine.
Okay. Jack, you say that you use, you say you use this model with everything, basically, even with your children and stuff like that, right? Now, I know this is property. Now, give me an example of how you use it with your child, because then, I can reframe it. So there's different aspects.
Good question. Now, let me take you a step back. Grow model is used for coaching, leadership, as well as persuasion. Now, grow model in and itself is so strong that the more you practice, and when you get to a certain level with it, you can easily manipulate people. It's an advisory caution. Don't manipulate people. Okay. Going back to your question, because it's a personal thing, you can easily manipulate your kids with it. Okay. How would you use it? Here is what I do with my son. Okay. In fact, let me tell you a story. Okay. So once it's just me and my son Agam. He's throwing things all over the place, right? He's pulling sheets, he's throwing the pillows, he's throwing the toys, he's literally everywhere. Thinking, mom is not home, sister is not home. I said, Agam, what are you doing? He goes, you're not playing with me. You're not letting me watch TV. Okay. I said, what do you expect me to do? He goes, what do you expect me to do? Okay. So I said, okay, I understand that, but what do you want to do in the first place? Like, what do you want to do now? So I put my laptop aside and he said, Papa, come and play with me this game, this new game I have. I haven't opened the box. He's a 3-year-old boy, man. How do they have so much brain? So he told me exactly what he wants, as in, leave your work, come and play with me this particular game. Okay? That's his goals. Okay? His reality at that point was that you're not playing with me. Yeah? This is a real one. Like, look, this happened a few months ago. Okay? So his reality is you're not playing with me, so I'm getting bored. His goal is that my papa or someone plays with me in this specific new game. So I left my laptop and I started playing with him. My opportunity is my time, as in playing with him. Okay? I didn't need to ask the W closing question because he said it himself, I want you to play with me. Does that make sense? Okay? In fact, you want to use your grow model so effectively that you should not have to ask the W question. Does that make sense?
What was the opportunity there? What was the opportunity there?
Opportunity was that I go and so no, opportunity was me, my time. So I have to go and invest my time with him to play that game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That was opportunity. Okay. And the W, like I said, if I take you a step back, if you do a really good job with your reality questions, your goals questions, and then your opportunity, which is not questions, which is more like statements, then you shouldn't have to ask the closing question. Would you like to go ahead? They should just turn up and say, well, this sounds great. Let's go ahead. That's what you call creating a pull factor within the grow model. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
Rajiv, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
Not a question, more like a story behind it so you can see.
Yeah, but then I can see how I can use that on my with the daily basis and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yes. Opportunity, is it for the opportunity for us and the client, or us?
It is.
Both ways.
It is. It works both ways, yes.
Yeah.
So remember, I'll do this again so you can see. Rajiv, look, this is the landlord, this is the vendor. He's not moving. He's not going to move from his place. Okay? You have to create opportunity and match him where he is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. This same applies for leadership, guys. When you are leading another human being, remember, you cannot manage a human being. You manage things, not people. You lead human beings. And for you to be able to lead a human being, you must first understand that human being. That is their reality. Once you understand their reality, that's when you can actually start to lead that person, if hopefully you are a good leader in the first place. Okay.
If you master the grow model, basically influence, persuasion, leadership, everything can be developed from the grow model.
It is, yes. There are loads of other models, Rajiv, but grow, from my understanding, is the most effective.
I like it. It's very simple. It's simple. It's not too much.
Can I just quickly on what you said about your little boy? I got a little dog, right? Every time I want to watch TV or do something on my computer, he picks the ball up and throws it on my on my feet. So he wants attention, you know. So I could use that now. Just have to stop what you're doing and use the opportunity to make him happy.
Yeah. Basil, any questions?
No, that's quite helpful, Jack. You know, even like on a personal level, we can use that model. So yeah.
Let me share something. Don't tell anyone, even though this is recorded. This is best used with your partners. A very effective use, guys. Emma, do you have any questions?
No.
Grace, any questions?
Yeah, Jack. Is it possible for you to, like this bridging loan? Yeah.
Yeah. Grace, your volume isn't up. I need you to either be closer to your mic or put the volume up, please.
Hello, can you hear me? It's because I'm outside.
That's okay. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead. This is better.
Okay. I'm talking about the what did I just say now?
The bridge loan.
The bridge loan, yeah. What is it possible for you to do a session on that?
Shall I do a complete session on finance
or not getting it?
Yeah. So shall I do a complete session on finance? All sorts of products, how they can be structured. I will do that. Yes. Okay. Call it another session. I will do it next week, guys. I will cover every aspect of finance, so you can see through on how you can structure every single deal with the most ease.
Yes, that'd be great. Deal structuring, deal structuring. So depending on it, we can go for examples. Okay, I've got this much deposit, but I don't have enough money to buy it. So what different aspects you can do?
I will cover every single aspect in the next session. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
My next session, so I don't forget. Any other questions, guys?
Yes. Just from what you're saying, that you can use a grow model on your partner. So when you get to W and she changes the mind, what do you do?
If you do a good job, in fact, that's a good question. That's a good question, right? I'm going to answer that, okay? The next event is finance. Now, that's a very good question, guys. Let me repeat this again. You never ask the W question unless you're fully sure, as in you're 100% sure you're going to get a yes. You don't ask the W question. Why would you ask a closing question if you're not sure you're going to get a yes? Let me repeat this, guys. Let me repeat this. If you do a good job at your reality questions, your goals questions, and your opportunity, you should not be at a point of asking the W question, which is the closing question. Okay, you should not be at that point. The person in front of you just turns up and says, let's go ahead. They give you the yes without you having to take a yes. Does that make sense? That's how good you need to become at the grow model. Okay? Let me add something here. You can get a yes every single time as long as you're creative enough with your solutions.
Yeah. The words you use.
Guys, let me repeat this. This is so important, okay?
Yeah.
You can get a yes from every single person you speak with as long as you're creative enough with your solutions. Okay? The R is not going to change, whatever the reality is. Their goals are not going to change. Well, in most cases, they're not. Yes, you can help them become a bit more visionary and try and help them see the bigger picture and help them make a little bit more money in the longer term with your option agreements. You can stretch that a little bit, but your opportunities is where the creativity comes in. And as long as you are creative enough and you can think of all the possibilities and the probabilities that you can bring on the table, there will never be a time you'll get a no. Okay? Am I that creative personally? No. What kind of yeses I get? If I go and pitch it to about 10, I am in the region of 2 and 3 yeses. Okay? Even though this number can be much, much higher for some people. Some people are just born creative. I have sat in meetings, they can just come up with solutions you just cannot, you couldn't even imagine it under the sun. Okay, it's creative. Okay, creativity is nature and nurture. Okay, so the nurture part I'm good at. I read, I'm meeting lots of really amazing people, but nature is what it is. You know, some people are just born creative. Okay, there's nothing you can do about that. Okay, so that's a very good question now you asked. Okay.
Can I just add to that, please?
Yes.
Yeah. It's also with body language as well. It's to look at the people, always smile. If you smile and talk, and confidence will come when you smile. Because if you don't smile, you see that guy's very like stone faced or something. They mostly are because they're curious. If you smile and you look at them when you talk with good words, you know, don't stutter. I'm just saying, even I stutter when I'm talking to you now. So, but it's very important when you meet somebody first time to get that feeling of that he's listening to me, you know, and smiling is one of the.
So now, thank you for adding that. I could do a session of 10 hours on body language and tone. Okay, like there's so much to it, you know. But that's another session. But yeah, thank you for adding that. Okay, guys, this is today's session. I'm going to stop recording. So if you have any other questions, you can ask me.
Just quickly, Jack, because we are working on, the hotel deals as well.
Yes.
Would you cover what sort of things? Because, the inspection, all these things came about when you mentioned before.
Oh, you mean the compliance?
Yeah, the compliance licensing or what other works, because